Good afternoon, everyone. I am Samantha Mowat. I'm a clairvoyant psychic and a contactee, and I think I'm going to talk to you today about what it's like being a parent who's raising contactees. When a lot of people think about contact, they only think about a couple of things. They actually typically only think of themselves. How is the contact with the extraterrestrials and multidimensionals impacting me? How is it upsetting my world? How is it changing my world and my point of awareness and my experience? And I get it. I do. We're all these beautiful little infinite beings who are coming out from the place of trying to understand the impact of what their surroundings and their situations are having upon their existence. But many of us actually fail to look at it from the perspective of, how has this impact on the people around me? I have found that as a parent who's raising contactees, it can be really challenging, especially look at the components that have to do with having kids who are going through contact with sometimes with not so nice beings or beings that they're misinterpreting or not quite understanding. And that's okay. It completely happens. But when I was growing up and having contact, I found my parents didn't actually let for me use my parents did not allow for me to use my contact as a crutch. So if I had a really intense experience and it'd be kind of frustrating for me or overwhelming for me, my parents would still get me to go back and do my chores. And you may be thinking, well, that's not compassionate, that's not very understanding. When in actuality, it taught me a better way of coping and understanding that yes, this is something that's going in my world, but I have to find a way to not dwell on it and obsess over it and really focus on it too heavily. And so what I ended up doing with my own children is, yes, they go through contact. We get them to write it down in their journals. If they ever want to talk about it, I'm here. You want to know about my contact? Okay. You want to talk about your own? Okay. You want me to just listen to what happened? Okay, not a problem. Let's do this. But I have found that with my own kids, allowing them to have that safe spot of someone to talk to has really helped them to handle it better. Because they're contactees, their psychic abilities tend to be more amplified than that of the normal standard children. And so not only am I raising psychic children, but contactees. And I have found that with them, it's common to even go into how can I explain this? A parent-teacher meeting, the quarterly time of the year, September, again around Christmas time, again around spring break, again at the end of the year. And to have to talk about things like, my one child's seeing a dead person in the room, or they're having a lot of out-of-body experiences at night, and that's part of why, sometimes their schoolwork's out of sorts, or they're not able to focus. And teaching them to be like, okay, I'm having these experiences, I can talk to these people about it because it's safe, but also establishing with your children that they can't go everywhere and talk about what they're experiencing. When my kids were little, and we were living in Vancouver at the time, and they were having these beings coming into our house at all hours of the day and all hours of the night and all sorts of different types of beings. And I told them, you can't just go around and be like, oh, I saw a reptilian, or oh, I saw a gray, or oh, I saw an alien. I'm like, honey, you can't do that. And so when my kids were little, we called them special friends, because the majority of the extraterrestrials and multidimensionals that we've encountered have been nice to us. And I know you may be wondering, well, how can you encounter so many different types of beings and have the majority of them be kind to you? But like anything, it is all a matter of perspective, and what one person may deem as kind, another may misinterpret if they don't understand the cultural aspect of it. For instance, let me explain this to you. A long time ago when I was sick, I had two beings come into my room when I sent out a plea for the beings that I worked with to come heal me because I had a really fast-acting lung infection. And I had one hybrid show up, and she was very clearly there to help heal me. And I also had a tall black male reptilian show up. And for some of you, you're like, oh my goodness, reptilian, bad, can't be good, has to be dangerous. And that's honestly not always the case with these beings. And so I've had to explain that to my children as well, of, write down every memory you have with an experience. And you have to actually take into consideration that your perspective can change over time. When I was younger, I would get freaked out when I saw velociraptors. I would get freaked out with some of the grays I saw because some of them weren't necessarily, in my point of consciousness at the time, always very nice to me. Because I would look at it as a child, and I would look at the aspect of having some of the implants put in and see that as a painful experience. And so it created a form of fear and trepidation, because at the time I didn't think to ask questions with all of them. With some of them I could feel a heart-to-heart connection, a soul recognition that it was okay. I sure hope it's not windy. It wasn't windy a couple minutes ago, so I'm so sorry if it is. But what you have to do with your kids is you have to talk to them and be that safe space. Find a way for your children to talk about what they're going through. And if you're not comfortable being the one talking to them about it, fine. You don't have to take them to a support group if you're not comfortable, but you do have to find people that are like them for them to express things with. And they may have to have code names for it. They might be having to call them angels instead of extraterrestrials. They might have to call them something else, because you can't always have your children holding on to all these strong experiences and emotions and expect them to understand adult situations in a lot of ways from a child's perspective. Yeah, these children are the new children. They're more psychic than us. They're more capable. They're more connected, but they're still children. Do you understand? You have to really look at it from a very heart-based place, and that's why I encourage my children to journal. And yeah, we spend a small fortune on journals every year, but I have found that by doing this, it allows for them to be able to take all of the mental clutter that comes to contact and to allow for it to really not only be released from their conscious mind, but to get into a spot where they know that they can reflect upon it later. And sometimes I will go through my journals with my children and be like, hey, look, at this time, this is how I felt towards this group. And now I feel this way. And it's okay to admit that your perspectives change and your understandings change. That's part of evolving as a person, and it helps your children see the growth and development of yourself as well. But I think I'm gonna go because it's starting to get windy and it's starting to be, well, the sun's setting. But I hope you have a beautiful day. I wish you peace, love, and light. Bye.